What is up, everybody? TC here with Smoky Mountain Knife Works, smkw.com, and today I'm joined by Edward Anthonis from BRS and Revo Knives. Edward, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it, man.
Well, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And we've got a really cool video for you, and we're going to be interviewing Edward about both of these companies and about a lot of different stuff. But before we get started, if you like this video, smash that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell so you will know when we drop new videos like this and interview really cool people like Edward. Now, without further ado, let's light it up. So, Edward, thank you so much for joining us, man. We really appreciate it.
Well, it's my pleasure entirely. It's good to be on with you guys.
So, first of all, where are you located?
So today I'm in my spot up in Maine.
Okay. Nice. Beautiful country up there, especially this time of year.
Yeah, for sure.
You guys are getting ready for some beautiful color changes. So,
yeah, they're happening.
You started BRS first, correct?
I did, yeah, with the help of my good friend Lawrence.
So, how did that come about exactly? Like, how did you get into Balisong butterfly knives and that kind of thing and making those?
So, for me, personally, I grew up in the 80s, I was born in 74. So, there was all these, and I don't know if you remember them, you might, these martial arts magazines.
Oh, yeah.
When I was a kid. And we would go to like the store, and while my parents got the shopping done, they would just plant me by the magazine thing. You could do that back then because no one would steal your kids.
I was the same way. And absolutely.
I would read these comic books and I would read those kung fu magazines, and I had imagined myself being a master of every single weapon that was in that book. I don't know why. It's just something that captured my information, my imagination. And then really heavy into like watching kung fu theater and all that stuff with my dad. So we watched those old dubbed movies.
Oh yeah.
And I just thought all those weird esoteric weapons were so cool. And then one day I saw, a butterfly knife in there, and that was it, man. I seen that thing was like, a lightning bolt shot me. I knew exactly that I wanted something to do with it. But at that venerable age, really could never really get my hands on one. Until one day my dad took me to a cutlery shop with the E on the end, Remember the old cutlery
shop? The shop.
And they had PCC butterfly knives in there, which I guess would be invariably Benchmade's butterfly knives. And I begged up and down for one, but they were just out of the range that you would buy a child, like it's only been $40, $50 at the time, $60. I don't remember the price, so somebody will crucify me for not knowing. But at the end of the day, I ended up getting like your standard kind of like flea market, Pakistani butterfly knife, and kept that thing with me from, I would say, arguably maybe like age 10 until I came across it, and it survived like 4 or 5 moves with me and everything else.
Wow.
You know what I mean? I just came across it, not too long ago when I bought the house that we're in now in 2016. And I was like, whoa, and that's where it started. But where BRS and all that stuff starts is I get interested in that butterfly knife is sitting in my desk drawer. I'm on the computer and I'm like, okay, I know these tricks just by attrition, open, close, this thing, that thing. What else can you do with this thing? And the magic of the internet, I stumbled onto a community of people at Blade Forums, and then a place called the Balisong the Asylum, which was where you could use a server to upload videos of people doing Balisong manipulation. And I was like, this is insane. Like, I want everything to do with this. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to learn everything I can. And invariably that platforms into Lawrence and myself becoming buddies, and then going to wanting to have a competition, dynamic where we could say, okay, let's let's create a space where people can create videos and we can match people up head to head and have competitions and stuff like that. So we called that place the Flipping Arena. And we did a competition every year there called FATOC, which is the Flipping Arena Tournament of Champions. And it was loosely modeled off of some stuff that I had been enjoying looking at, freestyle forums, which was a nunchuck competition. And I was like, we should do this for butterfly knives. Like, this is crazy. Like, why do we not have this? And so we went and did our best to try and make those things kind of from the scratch, website with the help of a kid named Jason. And from there, it just kept growing and growing until Lawrence and I were talking, and we were saying, like, okay, here's the knives that are on the market, and here's the customs, and here's all these things that you can participate in now, but none of them really had what we wanted for dimensions and weights and sizes and materials. Well, maybe arguably materials were kind of in place because people were using tie back then, but we wanted to create a sandwich style titanium Balisong, and that's when the Alpha Beast concept kind of started. And from there, we went onto a website called the Jersey Devil. Ron LaBella, R.I.P., my homeboy, who just passed away, sadly. And from their platform, we were able to even reach an even broader audience than the smallness of the Flipping Arena.
Right.
And we said, look, Lawrence and I drew this up. I think the original one was drawn in like MS Paint. That's how we had nothing.
Wow.
We're just hobbyists. You know what I mean? I didn't have professional equipment. I didn't have professional software. Invariably, we migrated to using something free like a Google SketchUp, and now obviously we're connected with what we need to further our aims even higher. But we submitted some imagery of it, and we were like, to that community, and we were like, do you like this concept? Do you like this idea? Would like to see this thing come to life? And we solicited the help of a custom maker to make the first 12 and then an additional 20 after that. And they sold so quickly, and we had a list of people who suggested that they wanted to get their hands on one. So I took that list and I took a shot in the dark, and I went to a couple different e-tailers, and I was like, who wants to hold of this with us? I have a list of 200 people or so that are ready to buy. Would that be enough to get you interested in carrying it as a line and letting us kind of platform the company in that way? And Blade HQ was like, yeah, let's try it. And that, I don't know, I don't want to say the rest is history because that's such a cliche thing to say, but that's really where the rest became history. A couple 12 years later, we're still cranking out all different types of butterfly knives, have grown the business, made the sister company, participate in the vault case, and do all sorts of projects, still support this community, still support it in the competition dynamic, which I know you and I are going to round on talking about, and how important that is, and why, obviously, you can see it's important to me because it formulaically starts for us with how important competing is and how it drives this hobby and forces people to innovate product, but also tricks the new types of landscapes to attract new people, to reach new audiences. So the competition dynamic has been something that I've been pretty stringently supporting, not just as an individual, but invariably as BRS, in a massive way, wherever we can.
Well, and I mean, to that end, and we're going to talk about competitions, and you kind of, I guess through the 90s, we kind of saw it with people like Tony Hawk when it comes to skateboarding and that kind of thing. So you're talking about the same kind of dynamic and the same kind of purpose and means to an end. And when you talk about competition, it gives people a purpose for doing it and something to strive for and something to push for. And it also gives people a really cool hobby that they've got something that they can do with it now. And I mean, it's a great
amounts of time and stuff developed on competitions, how they should look and feel, but also in participating in them in the early sense myself, and just how much hours and filming and just I mean, with butterfly knives too, and it must be said, it's not the safest thing to do.
Right.
Talking about, my real blood is involved in this equation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it really is a blood, sweat, and tears thing for us, for sure, because you make a mistake with one of these things, and you really do need to work your skill set up to and have a lot of respect for being in a competition and using a live blade and stuff like that. So, and I've drawn that correlation to skateboarding before. I agree with you. I think, in fact, this culture has a lot to do with mirroring some of the way that skating started, because when skateboarding started, they were toys, and then invariably from toys they became this professional board and trucks and vulcanized rubber wheels that people wanted, where before they were not really, had like clay wheels and just like rubber, and it's crazy, and so hobbyists and people who were really into it kind of took that over, right? And we kind of feel like maybe that's where we stepped into the butterfly knife thing in a similar a similar space, thought space, where it's just like, we know what we want as the guys who flip these things, so let's try and build it.
Yeah. So. And to that point, we've got a couple of competitions coming up. One big one that we're pushing for in the spring of next year, but we've got one coming up as well for our rep weekend in just a few weeks here in October 16th at 2 p.m. And we'll put a link down in the description below of this video for you to enter that competition. That's going to be sponsored by BRS, and they've been amazing for us, and we're working on getting that relationship started as far as carrying your products. We already carry your products from your sister company, and that's a good jumping off point that we can get into now, talking about how that came about. So, and that's not such a huge stretch. I mean, you guys had already made butterfly knives, and so going from that realm into the EDC realm of pocket knives and that kind of thing, how did that come about, and where did that desire come from?
So it was always present. As soon as Lawrence and I started BRS, we were like, let's make all sorts of EDC knives and gear and stuff like that. We were both active. Mark really liked cutlery. He had a modest collection. I had a modest collection. That stuff existed, already for us, which was kind of something we had hoped to walk into anyway. Right. But the butterfly knives were wildly popular, and it took it was just two guys, obviously, doing it, and then trying to find people that we could co-source their talent or their interest and help us grow the company. So we didn't have time in the beginning to make all the folding knives of our dreams. Like we had these folding knife dreams, but what we were short on was time. And both of us in the beginning were still working full-time jobs. So BRS was really the side hustle that took over. So when we got to a point where we had a stable platform and realized that we could now subdivide our efforts in that way, we had to create a track where the existing products that we were making for BRS would never be competing for factory space or resources. And so since it was a global market, we thought, why don't we use our industry contacts and see if we can bring some of our other ideas to life in the global market. And through friends, we were able to be positioned overseas, and we're doing really good work over there with some really competent and skilled companies that we co-source out there as OEM to bring these things to light. And I couldn't be prouder, because now the complete vision of what we wanted to do is starting to grow, and be even more prolific, for us. We can make butterfly knives. We have new butterfly knives that nobody's ever even seen, that we're bringing to the table soon, one of which we're going to do for Revo, which is the sister company, so, and we'll be handling the manufacturing of that ourselves in our Colorado facility. So we've grown quite a bit, and we're growing into this side of something that we've always wanted to do. I think that's kind of the origins of that stuff, because it was like always present, but now we're able. BRS has brought me a lot of things in life, and I'm super duper grateful. I'm like one of those people that has this job that, and a lot of it sprang forth from our own, thoughts and passions and idea. But I'm telling you, man, grateful for everybody that's touched it, everybody that's bought it, everybody that likes it, all the dialogue about it, all that stuff is just super enthralling for us. And it's a brand that has a lot of depth, Yeah. What I mean, but like TC, you could buy a knife from me, and then you could be like, hey, I bought it. Great. Peace out. See you later. Or you can take this like really ridiculous deep dive with us as a company, and you can learn about BRS and flipping and butterfly knives and competitions and who Lawrence and I are as people and artists and business people and dads. Like if you want to have all that information, it's there.
Right.
So we're definitely trying to create a very engrossing brand experience. I think Revo lends to that really well. It speaks to another side of what we're capable of doing.
Well, and it gives, and I was talking about this, I don't remember who we were talking to, but I was talking about this to somebody, but it gives people, when they buy your product, when they buy your knives, it gives people ownership. When they feel like they are connected with you in some way and they can relate, it gives people ownership and makes them even more, I think, even more proud of the product that you provided them, because they see the human aspect in it. And
I think it's important for people
and
to
that's
see
exactly
it,
why we're doing these interviews, because people love to hear where this stuff comes from, and they love to get to see inside the mind of someone who was able to create, and the creativity is what's really cool about it, and coming up with this and sharing that story. I think we've seen that in a lot of media over the last 20 years about these creation stories, and it's very inspiring too. But it also gives us a sense of ownership in part of what you guys have done.
Well, I agree, and I would say in addendum to that there's many times where I'm a customer and I'm looking for that too.
Yeah.
And I can get really enthralled with a brand or an idea because I've had that exposure to the people behind it. And when I have the luxury of knowing who's behind it, it's even better for me because I can make better choices. Yeah. Like I like sneakers and stuff, but I don't know who's making my Nikes. I just don't know. You know what I mean? So there is a point where it's so monstrous, you really don't have the luxury of it. I don't know exactly where my cell phone's made. I don't know exactly who's driving, this decision or that decision. But like I said, when we have an opportunity to, lift the veil and be like, I'm a guy, I'm just a guy that likes knives like you, and you could do this. I'm telling people right now, you can do this. It can be done. I think BRS in a way broke a lot of barriers down because we see a lot of other people now getting into building butterfly knives and making it happen. Yeah. You can do it. The odds that you do it and make it and become, a well-known brand operation, well, maybe those are a little slimmer. Or maybe the odds that you can do it and that you can sustain yourself doing it for 12 years in a row, well, maybe that's even a little more slimmer. But it still exists as an opportunity for anybody who has a dream, an idea, or whatever, and particularly in this market, which I think has been, at least for us, has been an exceedingly welcoming market. Yeah. People were very excited for new projects and new ideas from us.
Well, and honestly, I mean, you guys have become synonymous with top quality as far as butterfly knives are concerned, and quality control, and I guess also personalization and customization. And with guys like Corbin Lovins, I tell you what, that guy right there is a phenomenal ambassador for you guys. He is absolutely dedicated, and he has done amazing things in our minds because of our relationship with him and what we've done with him since Blade Show. And that was another thing I wanted to mention too. You mentioned this is not necessarily the safest thing when it comes to butterfly knives, and it's actually your blood on the line. So that was my first Bally Comp going to at Blade Show this year. And seeing how many of the competitors had bandages on their fingers and stuff. Some of them were to protect them, but some of them were like, I absolutely cut myself practicing for this.
I can attest to that. I've been hurt pretty bad doing this, not for nothing.
Right.
If you were going to watch someone juggle chainsaws and they weren't on, it takes a little something away from it. Right. So I've been a proponent of saying that in the competition space, it's neat to see the live blade because it's the highest form of the art where there really is real risk and that stuff.
Absolutely.
And I think there's a space for the non-live blade or the trainer blade as well. I mean, it's a little something we're working on. You can see for yourself, but it's a trainer iteration of the Alpha Beast. We're doing it, and we want to make those things available because we understand that there are people who don't have the luxury maybe of using a live blade. Maybe it's a demographic thing. Maybe it's where, a choice, or maybe they're a surgeon and they can't get cut, but they still want to participate. So I'm not here to say no to people, but I still believe that at the highest level of it is definitely done with a live blade.
Well, and also when it comes to trainers, you can look at too. Unfortunately, there are places where they're not legal, and people like Doug Ritter are working every day to combat that. But there are places where live blades on butterfly knives are not legal, and a trainer definitely allows a way around that so that people can still enjoy it, but not necessarily have to do it with a live blade. And I want to mention too the development process that you guys went through for that Alpha Beast with that Alpha Beast trainer, and how technical it gets when it comes to balance, when it comes to how you skeletonize everything, because that is paramount when you're talking about the level of specs on these knives and the technical side of things.
Well, I'd like it to feel as much if your main Bally Song is an Alpha Beast and you're going between the trainer and the live blade, I would like the trainer to feel as much like your main as humanly possible.
Right.
And that really is something that we keep a hold of in our minds, because I'm not just someone who's in the knife business. I'm someone who continues to be, even at my old age, someone who actively flips Bally Songs and cares about every aspect of it, from the community all the way down to the look, weight, feel, the customer experience, how to talk to people who are in this particular segment, and understanding, that language and being part of that culture. So it really is. It's a trickle down thing, like you're suggesting, that the trainer has just as much thought thrown at it as the live blade.
Yeah. Yeah. And it like you said, it takes a lot to get through that research and development process. There was a lot that goes into that. And more on Revo, you guys have got some really cool stuff on the way. You mentioned your ballad song that you're coming out with for Revo, and we are super excited about that. And so, do we have a tentative date on when that might be hitting the market?
So, I would like to see some activity on it and vetting our process and making sure that we can come up to speed on the volume that we believe that we would get commitment from our community and from our retailers and stuff like that. In the first quarter of the year, we'll have a better idea as to when the launch would be. In between now and then, we're going to continue to, it's like training for a fight, I guess. You know what I mean? We're just going to get in there every day. We're going to make sure the work holdings work. We're going to make sure our processes work. We're going to make sure the programs are right. We're going to get, consistent relationships with material vendors and stuff like that in an ever-changing landscape of that, as you guys probably know. And just make sure that we have our ducks lined up. But the first quarter of the year, I hope to have a lot better information about when we'll be letting them go and when that premiere will be for that product and what its final MSRP will be and everything.
Nice. Well, we are super stoked about that and can't wait to see them. And I believe when we talked before, you mentioned having some other new products coming out as well.
Yeah, well, when it comes to Revo, we didn't hold back, that's for sure. I guess there was a lot of ideas that we wanted to bring to market. The canine, the Crambit, that I see that you have with you right now.
I love this thing, dude.
Yeah, I think that's nice about that Crambit is that it's when I saw the Crambit market, it's awesome, and I think those knives are really cool, without a doubt. And like I said, it does kind of speak to the weaponologist that I, was as a kid. I was just always into that stuff,
Yeah.
And really learning how to use it or train with something like that is really appealing to me. However, they were not very functional as a pocket knife, and I feel like with the canine and that kind of interesting parang blade shape style, you actually have to have two cutting edges there. You could really do something with it if you had to use it.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's not exclusively just this curved hawksbill self-defense style tool.
Yeah.
So
that's a very useful pocket knife, a very useful EDC as far as I'm concerned. And I mean, the action's great on it. I absolutely love that thing.
It's done really well for us. I think Cranbits is some place where we're going to visit again, and maybe we'll try some other iterations of the canine style product. As far as things that are coming down the line, we made some changes to the launch product. Like if you take a look at the Berserk that I have here, you might notice a little bit of extra. So we just decided, like, hey, let's make it with a flipper and see how it behaves, and it behaves awesome. I like it, And so we're advancing some of the stuff that we made in a way where we're taking like the Vipera, which was like a really small, tiny, like small footprint, kind of like nail nick style, like a two-hand opener type of a product where we tried to modernize it. And then we were like, let's just grow it a little bit, put a flipper tab on it, and call it the Vipera XL, and get another SKU out of something that we know was doing well for us.
Right.
We're always trying to kind of like advance, the stuff that we've invested in, as well as work to create new stuff. Got a project called the Duo, which has an auxiliary cutting blade, but it is a folding knife. So it's basically a folding knife with two blades and both lock up with a frame lock. I mean,
nice.
It's that we're excited about. We have some things for sure that we're really super excited about trotting out, for Revo. When you talk about the Vipera XL, I think the street value on it is like under $40.
Wow.
So it's just another Slayer, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, whereas you got something like Nest, we did a V2 version of Nest, which will have this will be skeletonized and actually be a little less weighty.
Yeah.
So that's the type of stuff that's coming from Revo, rethinking and reimagining some of the things that are successful is to try and make them the penultimate, version of them, and also trying to add innovation and new products to the market.
That's really cool. Well, Edward, we are super stoked and super excited about everything that you guys have coming and everything that you guys are doing now. And we are excited to see what's coming in the future. And I just want to thank you again for coming on here and talking to us today and giving us some insight into BRS and into Revo. And we're really excited. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, it's my pleasure entirely. It's great to talk to you guys. It's great to see you guys supporting the Ballystone community. Obviously, that doesn't go on to deaf ears. That community is a very active and alive community, and they're seeing what you guys are doing, and I'm sure they're excited for it, just as you guys are in turn. Whatever you need from us, we're right here. We're only a phone call away, and I'm excited for these competitions and to support them, as BRS and Revo.
Absolutely. Well, folks, if you like this video, again, like, share, comment, subscribe, and check out BRS. Follow them on everything. Follow Revo, and make sure you are keeping an eye out for everything that they've got coming. And remember, if it cuts like a Revo, then we care.